They have a whole system.
Missing a bike? We may have found it. And your neighbors.
I saw some guy wheeling my bike down the street.
A man accused of murdering a sheriff's deputy claims self-defense. Contact Denver7 asks why a medical test costs thousands more in Colorado than in another state.
How do you come up with $9,000 for a test?
Plus, potholes galore in the South Metro.
We're not understanding why these roads are not being fixed.
And who will be 1-3? The Broncos and their backups try to save face against one of the worst teams to ever grace a football field.
It'll be bad football.
We begin, though, with breaking news. Spurred on by our reporting, the state is shutting down a Johnstown mental health facility amid concerns of patients being mistreated.
Chief Investigator Tony Kovaleski broke the story nearly 2 years ago and has been working it ever since. Dozens of Clearview patients and their families complained to him of people being kept longer than medically necessary, improper billing, and limited doctor visits. Well, tonight the state is adding failure to address COVID-19 to its list of concerns. We'll have much more on all of this tonight on Denver7 at 10. The woman killed when her home exploded in Gypsum has been identified as 49-year-old Patricia Rowe. Investigators believe a construction crew struck a gas line while installing fiber optic cable. Early last week, we asked the local DA's office if a criminal investigation had been launched, and we are still waiting on an answer.
A Westminster man now accused of abducting and sexually assaulting at least 4 women over the last 2 months. Joseph Vanek was arrested back on the 18th and has now been charged with 18 counts of assault, kidnapping, and menacing. Investigators believe there may be more victims out there.
An unexpected defense for the man accused of murdering Adams County Deputy Heath Gum. In opening statements today, Dreon Deering's attorney argued that Deering is not guilty because he was trying to save his own life when he shot Gum during a pursuit in 2018. Deering's legal team also claimed their client was drunk and high and that Gum fired first. DA Dave Young was having none of that, and he told a jury today that Deputy Gum told Deering to stop running and that both Gum and a fellow deputy saw Deering grab something from his waistband. Deering's trial could last several weeks. Prosecutors are seeking a sentence of life in prison.
A Denver man will likely spend 6 months in prison for selling psychedelic mushrooms. Cole Milner was nabbed by the feds after giving several interviews with local and national media outlets. Court documents obtained by Denver7 tonight show Milner has accepted a plea deal that will spare him a longer sentence.
A homeless camp or a bicycle chop shop. In Denver, they can certainly at least appear to be one and the same.
So many bikes have been stolen. Some people are now going from camp to camp looking for their property. Contact Denver7's Jacqueline Allen has that story.
I mean, I would rather have my car stolen than this.
The day Carter Hahn's custom mountain bike was stolen from his car,
It'd be easier to get another car.
his search was on.
This is Denver Stolen Bikes.
Starting with a post on the Denver Stolen Bikes Facebook group,
They have all the little places outlined.
where more and more people are posting maps and photos of homeless encampments they call chop shops.
There's a whole group of people, like in a pretty active community, that just kind of go around and look for bikes.
After days of searching camp to camp, he finally found his bike at this camp near 13th and Logan.
I walked up to him and I said, "Hey, are you selling bikes?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm selling bikes." And it's like, "I want to buy that one," and pointed at mine.
Contact Denver7 learned he's not alone. Leah Bilquist posted photos after she found her bike at the camp near Maury Middle School. Other cyclists post videos of thieves in the act. We went to see firsthand piles of parts and high-end rides in camps all over the city. Denver police tell me it's complicated.
Are there bike chop shops inside these homeless camps?
You know, it's hard to determine that. When our officers have gone into these camps, I mean, they see bikes, they see bike parts, but it's really hard to determine, did these come from a stolen bike or not?
In fact, advocates for people experiencing homelessness say this community is being unfairly blamed. The camp bikes may not be stolen, and people in the camps may not have stolen them. You think it's a good idea for people to show up at homeless camps looking for their bikes?
I think it's a good idea for people to lock up their bikes securely.
Bicycle Colorado agrees. Strong locks and serial numbers are important, but so is support from the city. New bike corrals, a step in the right direction.
Does the city need to do more?
I think, we always are asking the city to do more, but they have taken some great steps in the last year to improve bike parking around the city.
I wish there was some way I didn't have to actually pay to get my own bike back.
Carter says he had to shell out $160 to get his bike back from the man pushing it. While DPD says homeless camp searches aren't safe, a growing number of bike owners on social media say it's the only way to get your property back.
I know they're not all criminals, like there's some of them are nice, but it really just sucks when people would steal things from you.
In Denver, Jacqueline Allen for Contact Denver7.
411 new cases of coronavirus reported by the state tonight. That's one of the lowest numbers we've seen over the last several days. Hospitals, though, remain in a good place. Only 246 beds are being used by patients suspected or confirmed to have COVID. There are roughly 10,000 beds statewide.
CU Boulder has surpassed 1,000 cases of coronavirus and is now using up 38% of space set aside for isolation. Now, high case count aside, Boulder is slightly loosening restrictions on people between the ages of 18 and 22. Before, Boulder's young people were supposed to spend the day in solitude. Well, now they can hang out with one other person. They're also allowed to leave the house to, say, go to church, attend jury duty, or move their car so as to avoid a parking ticket. Other campuses, well, they have their own struggles. CSU has reported 337 cases and is locking down 2 dorms because of high levels of COVID detected in wastewater. DU has reported 199 cases. Regis has 66.
Douglas County, Castle View, and Mountain Vista high schools are all transitioning to remote learning for the next 2 weeks because of exposure to the virus. Mesa Middle School will also move some classes online, but for the most part will keep everyone in-house. 6 more Denver businesses have been cited because employees or customers weren't covering their faces. Those include Altitude Brewing, Bar Louie, and Functional 45.
A much-needed break from Mother Nature today for the crews working the Cameron Peak fire in northern Colorado. Calmer winds and lower temperatures allowed for new fire lines and progress on repairing power outages. At 124,000 acres, the Cameron Peak fire is now the 3rd largest in Colorado history, and dozens of buildings have burned. Just northwest of Fort Collins in Wyoming, the Mullen Fire has doubled in size over the last 2 days and now stands at 77,000 acres burned. Several communities have been evacuated, roads are closed, and containment is at 2%.
Donald Trump and Joe Biden will face off tomorrow for what is sure to be a lively presidential debate. Expect Biden to hammer the president on his handling of the pandemic, race relations, and of course, his tax returns and failed business deals. President Trump will likely talk about the Supreme Court and attempt to paint Biden as a candidate in decline. Debate coverage begins at 7 o'clock. We will wrap up the big moments with insight and analysis here on Denver 7 News at 10. Hospital chain Universal Health Services appears to have been hit by a massive cyber attack. That's according to NBC News. UHS has facilities in Littleton, Louisville, and in the Springs. A spokesperson would not go into detail, but pointed us to a statement which confirms operations have been impacted by an IT security issue. UHS says patient and employee data was not compromised.
Go in expecting a $1,000 bill, leave paying 9 times as much. Denver 7's Liz Gilardi has tonight's cost of care.
I had a terrible headache that wouldn't go away for a couple days and was just feeling really fatigued.
After feeling like that for a couple days, Elizabeth San Juan decided she needed to see a doctor. She went to St. Anthony Summit Medical Center near her home in Frisco.
And they did a CT scan and some blood work on me and said that everything was fine, just that I had altitude sickness.
Altitude sickness, that was a first. And when the bill came in the mail, Elizabeth was shocked when she saw the price for the scan. $8,963. She wants to know why.
I would ask them how they came up with the $9,000 charge for a 2-minute test.
Elizabeth thought it sounded like a lot of money, especially considering she recently had another CT scan in Florida and it wasn't nearly as much.
Very high, and I have my receipt here from my test in Florida, the same scan, which cost $800.
As you can see in this bill, after her insurance, she only owed $10, 2 CT scans, and 2 wildly different charges. That's why Elizabeth reached out to Contact Denver7 after she tried to get an explanation from the hospital.
They said that they can't view how things are priced out, so they just deal with the back end of patients getting their bills. So that's why they have to forward it to someone else. That someone else hasn't gotten me an explanation as to the cost of this thing?
We've been trying to find out too. When we reached out to Centura Health, a spokesperson wouldn't elaborate on the bill, but said they would reach out to her directly to work through any concerns. Elizabeth said a representative called her and said a supervisor would be in touch, but so far the bill is still the same. And we let Centura Health know that Elizabeth still has some questions about this bill. And if you have a medical bill that you can't make sense of or a bill that you've been fighting, you can reach out to contact Denver7 or email me directly, liz@thedenverchannel.com.